All right, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Open House Masters Show. Happy Wednesday if you're joining us live. So, you know, you're a real estate agent when you check your favorite Facebook group and the top post is about how open houses are a waste of time, right? And it's one of those myths that just won't die, but maybe that's because people don't understand how to do open houses the right way. And so we are today on today's show going to be talking about the top 6 major myths about open houses and why you absolutely cannot afford to believe them. And reminder to ring the bell if you're on watching this on YouTube, so you get notifications for future show episodes. And if you want to get more tactics on how to grow your real estate business from the experts, make sure you hit that like button as well. And again, I'm James, the host and producer. I'm joined by Shannon Quagliata, the CEO and founder and the head coach, CEO and founder of Open Houses Direct and the head coach over at Open House Masters. And then we've got Zach Hammer with Real Estate Growth Hackers. How's it going, guys?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
Good, doing great, doing great. Trying to hold it
Doing
down
great.
here, and
Doing great.
good,
No
good,
cows flying yet, Zach.
yeah.
So
So like I said, we're going to be talking
Yeah,
about
not yet.
how
Not
about
yet.
oh man, this delay is super bad. I'm
I
gonna
mean,
have to keep that in mind and pause whenever I go forward here. So, really, really, like I said today, we're gonna be talking about the myths about open houses and why you can't afford to believe them. So, what this is really, it's a pervasive myth that seems really like a heated debate. And we've seen, the comments coming through from other agents. It seems like people are really starkly divided between the two sides. Some people believe open houses work. Some people just have a bad taste in their mouth because of a bad experience. So, really, why we want to talk about this today, why this is important to you now, is that open houses have been one of the best ways to generate clients for the agents that we're working with. Shannon, I specifically want to bring you in on this conversation because when we started working together back in January, you did this 2 months in a row where you were able to command a 100K month, two months in a row, based
mhm.
on all open house leads. So why this is so important is because of that kind of result. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how that happened and why people should really be paying attention to open houses right now?
Yeah, I think that you just never know who's going to come into an open house, and you'll never meet them if you don't ever do it. And that's my the philosophy. It always has been. But if you look at your top producing agents, you're always going to see them on social media saying open house, come see my open house, come see my open house. And the way that there are very few top producers that do not do open houses. It's the ones who are doing these open houses and are really who aren't doing them and are saying that they don't work are really the agents who don't know how to do them and aren't doing them right. Because how you get listings, how you get sellers, which is what everybody wants. How do I get sellers? How do I get sellers? Well, can't get them online anymore. Can't buy them online anymore. You have to go find them. You have to get in front of them. And so open houses are the way to get sellers now, more so as much as buyers. And so with the open houses I was holding in January and February of last year, yeah, I mean, I had a girlfriend say, hey, can you put my house on the market for me? I'm like, no problem. Held an open house, right? Got a ton of people that came in. And I had a buyer come in that wanted to buy the house, but ended up not buying it and buying another house. And then his daughter moved into town, bought her a house. And then I sold that house. And then I had a neighbor come over and say, hey, would you mind coming over and looking at my house? Put that house on the market, held another open house, right? And it turns into 10 leads. And if you do it the right way, and that's the thing, it's like I think you can't just show up to an open house and put a sign out. And I think that that's the old fashioned way. And you don't want, this was a very nice occupied property. So I didn't have 25 people in the house at a time because I can't talk to 25 people at a time. So, having a time controlled open house and having an appointment only in the areas now that aren't allowing open houses. I know Washington isn't allowing them. I know California is kind of coming back, but that they're not allowing them because of crowd control. Why can't we have an open house and do crowd control? So to answer your
Yeah.
question, yes, open houses now more than ever are the way to get in front of these buyers that are desperate for a property. And the
Hmm.
houses that are being sent to them by their agent, it doesn't mean the agent's not doing their job. It just means that there's not enough inventory in that particular search criteria. right? So they go out and they find something because they need to buy something, and they end up walking into an open house that might not be 2,500 square feet. It might be 2,300 square feet, but it's perfect. So they buy it, and or they call you and they go, okay, I found my house. So it is a way to sell. It is a way to do it. So
Mhm.
yes, I mean, that's just how I've grown my business. I mean, for like the last 5 years. And when I was actually actively doing it, and even now, I mean, the clients that you have and you meet through open houses, you have forever if you nurture them
Yeah.
right? If you
That
follow
that
up.
that's one of the things
So
that I've noted, having, just listened to the experiences that you've had and some of the other students as well, like, getting to meet a person in an open house is always just a better experience because you're getting to
mhm,
like, see them face to face, and it just shortcuts the whole process. So, I wanna talk about the number one myth or the first myth that we spotted in one of the Facebook groups that we were talking about the
mhm,
other day, that open houses are only for looky-loos and nosy neighbors looking for freebies and actually have no interest in buying. And
right,
you sort of touched on this just a moment ago, where we know that from experience, that's absolutely not true. Um,
right,
let's talk about that. Like, because I think this is one of the biggest hidden opportunities with open houses is that if you buy into this myth, if you crush this myth and don't no longer buy into it, you're gonna see a tremendous change in your business because an open house, like, neighbors that come in, those are potential clients, right? And
right,
so
right.
if you're set up the way that we're uh, teaching, then that's where the magic happens. So Shannon, talk about this. Why is this so important?
Yeah, and I want to make sure that people know. I mean, yes, there are looky-loos. There are people that are looking that, I mean, and I love looky-loos and I love nosy neighbors because as a realtor, it's all about our sphere, and everybody talks about growing our sphere. Well, our sphere of influence is our sphere and how to get in front of people that know you and know you're a realtor. So it doesn't mean you just want to get in front of people that want to do something in real estate right then, although that's what open houses are great at. But a nosy neighbor has a daughter that's moving into town or has a friend or has whatever. The number of leads I've gotten from nosy neighbors coming in and saying, hey, by the way, my neighbor, they are actually thinking about selling, give me your card and I'll give it to them, and you can go and connect with them, and I'll tell them I met you and I really like you, right? So then that's how you get a seller. And those
Right.
are the nosy neighbors where they'll actually come in and say, I'm a nosy neighbor. And I always go, great. I want to know who you are. I want to know everything about your neighborhood, because it might be a neighborhood you might work in, but it might not be a neighborhood that you know everybody in. So to have a
Right.
nosy neighbors are the best because they will sit in your open house. If you aren't that busy, you'll have time to talk to them about everything in the neighborhood, everyone who's going to sell, what's going on, who's moving, things like that. You can get a lot of information from them. And they do come in and they love, it's always good to have, drinks and food, as we always say, but it is really not true that they don't have an interest in buying, because you just never know. We have a lot of people moving around right now in the world, in the US. We have people moving from all over to Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, back, and all these other things. So a lot of buyers that are moving around will have a friend that they want to be in their neighborhood. So
Mhm.
they'll tell them, hey, let me know when a house comes up in your neighborhood and go see it. And then they go see it, they call their friend, you give them your card, you get their information, and that's how you get a potential buyer that might not buy that house, but they're moving into town and they don't have an agent yet. So that's
Right.
how
Right.
houses work for nosy neighbors. I love them. So
So, I mean, it sounds like this is one of those, like, hidden opportunities within open houses that if you're
mhm,
tuned into this, if you realize that nosy neighbors and a looky loo, like, there's really no such thing as I mean, it's fine. Like, you want to embrace them because you're gonna get these other opportunities out of that. So I think that's why we want to smash that myth.
right,
Open houses, also another myth that we see and hear a lot, is that open houses are just to get buyer leads.
right.
And that kind of ties in with myth number one, what we were talking about there. But let's expand on that a little bit.
Well, I want to put something in here. I want to talk about both of these because open houses are great for feedback. And open
Mhm.
houses are to generate buyer leads. Yes, but they more so in our market right now. A buyer, that the chance of a buyer walking in and buying that house are very, very, very high. It's happening with agents. All the Facebook chats I'm in, everybody goes, oh, well, buyers aren't walking in and buying houses. You have a 2% chance. And then all these agents that are like, are you kidding? Like in our market right now, I had an open house the other day. I had a buyer come in. I wrote a contract. I had 3 buyers come in and I had to write 3 contracts and they were all competing. It's like, what do you do? Right. So that's what's happening now. It's not, and they all have a house to sell. So the thing about buyers that are coming into open houses is they aren't ready to sell until they find something to buy. And so they don't have an agent yet. They haven't hired an agent, that they're driving around or they're going online looking for open houses. And so they really, you can generate as many seller leads now as you can buyer leads. And you can get feedback. So I think, and I know we're going to tap on this on another myth, but I mean, there are not enough agents that are doing coming soon open houses on properties that are about to come on the market and getting early feedback. I think days on market are important in any single market, whether you are a seller or a buyer. It's the same thing. Like a buyer has an advantage when a house has been on the market 10 days, right? A buyer doesn't have an advantage when a house has only been on the market 1 day, right? They're at the advantage of the seller. And the seller in any market, especially in a hot market, if your house is on the market for 10 days right now, oh my gosh, every buyer's like, what's wrong with it? Why hasn't it sold? We're in a hot market, and it's probably just overpriced, but there might be other things wrong. And if your agent does an open house, an actual preview, neighborhood preview, have the neighbors come in and tell you what needs to be done. It is really amazing what you can do before you list the house. It could be a crack in the tile. I've had that happen where I did a coming soon open house. I had 8 people come in, neighbors. I kind of advertised it only to the neighbors. I met all the neighbors. They all came in and they're like, oh my gosh, what is that crack in the tile? And it was actually not a foundation crack. It was a crack in the tile. But man, the minute you walked in, that's what you saw. And they all said, ooh, I don't know. That's a red flag. So what did we do? We got the tile fixed before we put it on the market. Boom, we sold it in a day. The day it hit the market, we had actually 8 offers on it. And in the preview, we didn't have any. And we had agents come and preview it because everybody saw this crack, right? So there's so many things that you can do, like a backyard maybe doesn't have enough color, like, to make it look good. If you in our market want top dollar for your house, getting a preview, having a preview open house is really, really key for getting feedback. I mean, talk about adding value as a seller. iBuyers aren't going to do that for your seller, right? So we are up against all these iBuyers, and the way that we can go in and they're like, well, Zillow's going to buy my house. Yeah, but Zillow's not going to do this. Zillow's not going to do this. Neither are all these other companies. And this is what I do because I'm going to get you even more money. And we're going to also have a preview. We're going to do all these things. And I think that's also a way to really go in and get a listing over an iBuyer. So I think it's an advantage. So, yeah.
Right. And really, I think so, pulling up the myth number 3 here, because I think that we segue really nicely into that, because open houses, this myth about open houses don't help sell the property. They only help the agent.
Right.
And
right.
we could really unpack this and cite multiple scenarios where that's not true. That open houses do help sell the property, especially, in recent situations that we've seen. So let's talk about this. How can we turn this myth on its head here?
Well, because I know I kind of tapped on this earlier in the show a couple of minutes ago, is that they do help sell a property because of, now what happens is buyers have so much access to the online search, right? They have Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com. They have all these search engines, but they have to refine their search. You can't just go on and just look up a neighborhood and you get like 5,000 houses. You have to refine your search. But the problem with refining it is then you miss out on houses that might not be in your search criteria, but are an actual perfect fit or are listed wrong. Listing agents try and do the best we can, but we miss things. We miss that it's a 3-bedroom and a 2-bath and a den, right? But the den has a closet and it's actually big enough to be a bedroom, right? It's huge. I've had buyers walk into an open house on a Saturday, call me and be like, oh my gosh, we found our house. I'm like, where? And they're like, oh, it's this great house and this and that. And And I'm like, how did I not find that? And they're like, well, it was open and we were driving by. It doesn't have a pool though. Right. So it's like, oh, well, what do you mean it doesn't have a pool? Oh, well, my search that I had set up for them, they were adamant, has to have a pool, has to have a pool. And then they go into an open house and they buy it because it doesn't have a pool. The house is on the market for 25 days. Right. So I think that it doesn't have a pool. So there's so many people who want a pool in Arizona, especially. They're so set on having a pool that they won't even go see a house without a pool. But with an open house, they will, and they'll walk into it because it's open, and they walk in and they go, wow, this is actually says it actually it checks all the boxes, but it doesn't have a pool. Maybe we'll just put one in. And that's what happens, why that they do help sell a property. And we've had agents recently that are on our team, in our coaching program, that have done open houses for other realtors with houses that have been on the market 2 weeks, and a buyer walks in and buys it. So that buyer most likely would not have bought that house had that agent not held it open. Guaranteed.
Right.
Because she was at a neighbor's house. She lived on the other side of the valley. She was coming over to visit a friend, saw this house come up. Her friend's like, oh my gosh, you could be my neighbor. I didn't even think to tell you about this house. She wasn't even looking in Scottsdale, and she bought it. So yes, they are going to help sell properties, especially more than ever, since our buyers have so much access now to data online that they don't need us. I mean, they actually don't need us until they meet us, right? That then they meet you and then they go, okay, well, I want to buy it. Now what do I do? Well, I'm an agent. I'm here to help you. So they do help sell properties. And I think that's a myth that sellers have. And I think that's a myth that agents have a hard time explaining to a seller. But I think they also have a bad rap because we've never been able to do open houses the same way as a day of showings. It's the same thing. I mean, a lot of sellers are like, oh, I don't want 100 people in my house at a time.
Part of the
To be able
problem
to
is
go
how
in
they're
there,
being done.
yeah, to be able to go into a listing appointment, say, I'm going to do an open house, but I actually call it a day of showings. I actually have everybody comes in, everybody's time controlled. I do this whole check-in system, and it is amazing. And I'm here for all the showings. So you can just be gone, go get a resort pass at a hotel for the day. I'm going to handle this. And I mean, clients are like, that was unbelievable. That was amazing. Like, they don't have to accommodate 55 showings because we're right now, who wants to do that? I don't want to do that as a realtor. And I don't want to be at 55 showings, but if I have all the showings on the same day or 2 days, I can be at all of them. And I think that's also what helps sell a house.
Right. Yeah.
Zach,
yeah.
back?
Zach, are you able to, do a quick audio check?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I think you guys can hear me. Okay, cool. Yeah, so a couple of thoughts. So yeah, I mean, real estate, especially, just like Shannon was saying, it is such an experiential thing, right? When you're buying a house, there's only so far that you can get in defining the numbers and all of that. And just like Shannon was mentioning, right, there are plenty of times where once you get in and you see the actual house, or maybe that community has a community pool. So the pool that you thought was so important, maybe it's less important since you have access, to one in that subdivision or whatever, right? And so yeah, people are, once they actually get in and see something, they're able to make those shifts and make those changes mentally, where you'd never be able to convince them in before they've seen the house that, oh yeah, no, you don't really need that. Like, that's not a thing. That's not like, you're not gonna get them to move mentally on that, until they've gotten in. But with open houses, you have the opportunity to find those people that, they're exploring the neighborhood, they're interested, their minds are activated to look for homes. And yeah, people will, while they're out driving around, they'll take a chance. They'll say, hey, I'll stop in here. I'll see what it is. And you're exactly right. I mean, it could be the difference between that person changing everything that they thought that they needed to when they get into that house, they're like, oh no, I guess this is what we needed. Like, you don't really know until you get into it. And so yeah, it's such an important aspect, and it really is. I mean, I know I missed a bit because the tornado took away my audio, but but we have but I hopefully you mentioned, like, there's been a number of times where our students, you especially too, Shannon, have had multiple occasions where the people who came into the open house directly made the offer, right? And yeah, so I mean, there is a ton of times where this is the case. Now, Is it, I think, generally the case that most people, end up finding their home through the search, through that sort of normal process? Yeah, probably. I mean, you get a lot of, a lot of exposure that way. That is, I think, how most people are starting into that process of finding the properties. But man, in in a market like this, in various markets, it's important to just have every arrow in your quiver possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely a way that does very consistently and meaningfully make a difference to to find buyers that you may not have found otherwise.
Right. And I
For
agree.
property specifically.
Yeah. And I agree too, because I feel like everybody wants a seller, right? But also, like in my listing appointments that I used to do, they're like, how are you going to sell my house? Everybody has to have that ammo, right? As a listing agent, you go in, you're given a presentation. I never had an iPad where I go through everything. They're like, how am I going to sell your house? Here's how I'm going to sell your house. The day it goes on the market, I'm going to have an open house. Here's how I'm going to run it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get as many people in your house to have eyes on it, but I'm going to do it in a way that it is time controlled, that I'm going to protect everything in your house. I'm not going to have 10 people in this house, but we are going to be getting as many people in the door on day one as possible. And I have had this is an example I want to talk about, because I had an open house. I went in, I was up against other agents, and I sold my clients on letting me have an open house the day the house went active. And they said, okay. And I said, it's only going to be for about 5 hours, but I want to be here for the first showings. I had a couple come in that had just landed from Chicago, and they didn't know the area, that their son was going to be going to the private high school around the corner. And they came in and they looked at the house and they said, oh my gosh. And they were driving by to go to lunch, and they looked at the open house sign and they came in. It was the day it hit the market. These guys had just landed and they were in the open house without their agent. But they said, well, we do have an agent, but she didn't know we were going to look at houses today. And I said, that's okay. They came in, and the house had a guest house and it had everything. They're asking me everything about the neighborhood. They're asking me, well, how far is it from the school? We're a little bit, whatever. And I told them, and I talked to them about the house, and it had saltillo tile. And they said, well, what is this orange tile? And I told them all the qualities about it that are actually really good. I'm like, it's really Arizona and this and that, and talked to them. Their agent that they left, their agent actually came back with them an hour later, and they bought the house the day it hit the market. And this house actually backed a busy road. And so it was something where they would have, their agent, I guarantee you, would have never shown it to them, because it was on a busy road that wasn't kind of busy. It was kind of busy, but people, I know agents are like, you don't want to see that. It backs up to this main road. And, but the actual guest house was up against the road, and it was on almost an acre. So it was way back. And so that buyer, I guarantee, would not have bought that house had I not held it open and had them come in and talk to me, period. And we sold it the day, and it was the only offer we got. So we didn't get any multiple offers. And my clients were like, well, when I told them we got a full price offer the day it went on the market, and it was, they couldn't believe it. And they sent me like 5 of their friends. They're like, our agent sold our house in the day. It backs to Happy Valley Road. How did she do that? Because I had it open. And that's why. So there's a lot of things, and I guarantee you that buyer would not, because that agent would have never shown them the house.
Right.
So,
So one of the big complaints or big issues that we see coming up time and again, where agents are just like, open houses don't work because of this one thing. And it's the next myth that we're bringing up here, which is myth number 4, that open house guests just don't give good contact information to you. They never give you good contact information. So what's the point? Why even do them, right? Let's talk
Right.
about this. We've got a fix, obviously, for how we capture, but why do we need to bust this myth?
Well, because they don't. They don't. If you don't do it the right way, if you give them a notepad, and we actually, I know Zach had a really cute, like, he's like, let's actually do a post and say, what was the funniest name you ever had somebody sign in as? I think mine was like Donald at daffyduck.com, and whatever. And the name, I don't remember what the name was. I know that there's a lot of different things that they do, but I think that, for one, you can't catch them on the way out. right? That's what a lot of agents try and do. They're in a hurry, they're not. And so it's not that they don't give you good contact info, they don't give you their info at all, right? They're like, that I already got what I want. It would be like going into a bar, right? And saying, oh, I need your ID. Yeah, you're like, okay, I'll give it to you after I go drinking for a while. And then you come out, you're like, I don't want to give it to you now. I'm leaving. Right. You don't do that in any situation. It's like you don't go into a doctor's appointment and say, well, I'm going to go see the doctor and then I'll check in, after I get what I want. And I'm not going to pay either. So, but yet open houses run the same way. So, yeah, they don't give you a lot of times they won't sign in at all. A lot of times agents who say open houses don't work are the ones that aren't talking to people, aren't taking notes on them, don't have a system to do that. And so, yeah, like if you have 25 people come in, you need to have contact information for all 24 verified, period. And if you don't, then you're not doing them the right way. The agents who are doing this now are getting 25 leads and being able to follow up with 25 because 25 people are coming in unrepresented. They're marketing it the right way and they're also holding it the right way. So yeah, that is the check-in issue that the capturing information, the Houdini, we call them, the ninja buyer who comes in, you don't know they came in, they're hiding from you and then they sneak out the door. Yeah, that's the old way. That's the old way we've had to do open houses. But if you do them the right way, you're not doing that anymore. And you are actually getting verified information or they can't come in. It's that easy. Yeah.
Right. And I think that was the key in terms of like how that myth, how we can get rid of that is like, you need to have the system in place and then you need to have the mindset or, how you're running your open house needs to be a specific way. So like Shannon just mentioned, you're not trying to chase people down on the way out because that'll never work. So it's how you're doing it as well as what the capture device is. So Zach, you got something you want to add there?
Yes. I mean, like imagine if like I was wanting to start farming, not marketing farming, but actually farming, right? Like growing crops, right? If I go into that process and I just get some seeds and I just sort of throw them at the ground and then I just wait, I'm like, oh man, farming doesn't work. What's going on, right? Like it's the same idea. If you don't do the process the right way, if you don't like till the soil, if you don't actually space the seeds out at a proper rates that they have the ample room to grow, if you don't make sure they get enough water, right? Yeah, you're not going to get good results. And so when it comes to open houses, exactly like you guys were saying, we've called it the open house, right? Where it really feels like people just are free to roam around, they have control, and yeah, that sets you up for a scenario where you're not going to get the respect that you need in order for them to just trust the situation. So we have a step-by-step process for this. We call it the red velvet rope effect for how to do an open house correctly. And James, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're doing a workshop on this tomorrow. Am I correct that we're diving in step by step into how to actually do this exactly right, where people can learn the skill set, learn exactly what they need to do it right. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. We actually have one booked for tomorrow at noon Arizona time. So if you want to sign up for that, you can go to www.openhouseworkshop.com to grab a seat for that. We did one last week. It went really great, and we're looking forward to our next one here. We had, we're going to be talking through the red velvet rope effect, like Zach mentioned, which is really integral in our process, and it's probably the part of the step of the process that gets the biggest result. So that's why we like talking about it. I'll just throw that up there on the screen for anyone who's tuned in right now. Openhouseworkshop.com will get you where you need to go to register for that. That's tomorrow. And I encourage you, if you're catching this in the future, to still go to that website because we will have replays and other, our schedule posted there as well. So, if you kind of stumble across this in the future, that's the place to still go. So anything you want to add on that, Zach or Shannon?
No, I think it's great. I think what I am really enjoying is seeing the agents who are doing this method and are calling me just like elated. Like, and what one of them even said, which I love it. It's just how I've done open houses for 10 years. It's how I've done it, but I had to learn it. and it took me a lot longer to learn. I didn't have anybody showing me how to do it. But by the time I did, I was like, wow, this really works. But then I would go and visit other agents at open houses. I'm like, well, it's kind of weird. Like they don't actually do it the same way. And I didn't realize that it was something that like Zach saying, it needs to be taught. Like you don't just put seeds in the ground and hope you grow a garden. Like there's a way to grow a garden and there's a way to do it. But the agents who are getting success it's just so fun to see them. And I love that new agents that have been in the business, or that even agents who have been in the business for a couple years, 5 years, that are like, I've never ever woke up on a Sunday morning and been like, I'm having an open house and I'm excited. Like, it's like, oh, I got to do an open house today, And now they're like, it's fun. Like, I actually am looking forward, like my open house, like I'm excited to do them and you should be excited because it's how you're going to meet people. And it's like going to your own little party, little cocktail party or whatever. So yeah, it is. And when you have that mentality going into it, it changes everything. It changes how people react to you. It changes how people sign in with you. And it changes how many leads you convert into sales, period. I mean, if you're doing
right.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think in moving forward to our next myth, where we hear often people sort of steering away from open houses because they think that the marketing step is expensive, right? And really, why open houses? Why is it that you think open houses are perceived as requiring a expensive marketing budgets?
Well, as everybody knows, I'm the CEO of Open Houses Direct, which is the first national marketing platform for open houses. And the reason it was created was because of this. Like, okay, I'm having an open house, right? And I'm having an open house because it is the most cost effective way to get in front of people. But then I was having them and I was like, how am I going to advertise my open house? Let's see. Oh, there is no way, right? I don't really have a way to do it and I don't want to put it on the MLS because I'm holding it open for another realtor. So nobody's going to really find me anyway. And also signs fall down and there's a lot of things that go on. I mean, it's just a mess. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive at all. But I think their realtors have always been like, well, what are my options? Like I'm holding an open house, which I'd say probably 75% of open houses are held by other realtors, right? For other houses that they don't have on the market. Yet there's no way for them. Like, how are they going to market their open house? I see agents paying so much money advertising it on these websites and these networks to agent. Hey, come by my open house. It's like, woohoo. I'm like, that just cost me $50 to tell you I'm having an open house. It's like, but that isn't even the marketing you want. You want the marketing to the consumer that's unrepresented. And if so, there is a way to actually do that very, very cost effectively so that your cost per lead for an open house, if you got like 2 leads, it could be $5 a lead. It's crazy. I mean, other than having to buy a couple drinks and some snacks and some flyers. And I mean, I think that it's not expensive at all. And that there's just a lot of ways that you can actually do it very, very, very cost effectively and get the same results, but actually get even better results because the people coming in are unrepresented. So
Right.
MLS is not one of those options.
Right.
That's what we do at the last minute. We're not doing that too early because that's not in our benefit. That's not going to send you any leads. So
Right. And I'm excited. We're going to be going into more detail on exactly what Shannon's talking about in another training where we don't have enough time to go into it on the show here, but this is one of the other techniques that we're teaching in our coaching program that gets a tremendous result and impact in terms of like getting people to show up at the front door and come straight through. And really it ties in nicely with our last myth, which myth number 6, it says that open houses are a waste of time because everybody who comes through already has an agent. And so there's a fix for this. We don't have time to really get into it, but we do want to just touch on this because it's not true when you do it a certain way, right?
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, and it was so great because we have a new agent that I've been helping, and she called me and she goes, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm like, that's what you're supposed to do. And then she had it open on Saturday and Sunday. Called me Monday. She said, I said, how did it go? She goes, I don't even have time to talk to you because I had so many people come in. She said, we had 25 groups come in. And she said, I've never had an open house where 21 did not have agents. She said, I got 21 people that I have to follow up with today. And I am so busy because it was crazy. And we got an offer on the house. So, and it was her listing, so she's just like, it was just an overwhelming weekend. And she said, I'm sold. This is amazing. I want to do this again. Right. Because it's exciting. Like, well, what's more exciting than, for us as realtors, it's like, if we get results from what we're doing and our actions and our time spent, that's exciting. But I know there's so many times when I was a newer agent that I'd sit in an open house and it's weird. I'm like, oh, nobody came. It's so weird, and not to have one person walk in the door, because how did I market it? Oh, I had to rely on the listing agent and to put it in the MLS and they forgot, or they put it in too early and then everybody already saw it anyway. And so, I feel like that they are a waste of time if everybody comes in with an agent, unless it's your own listing. But if you're going to sit there on a Saturday and your Saturday, it is great to have people coming in that haven't hired an agent. And recently we just had a group come in that had been looking at open houses for 4 months, hot buyer, and they didn't have an agent yet. That means agents aren't doing their job. And they walked into ours. I'll tell you right now, our agent converted them and had them in escrow in 2 weeks, because we told them, you can't rely on open driving around looking at open houses. It's okay to do that, but you need an agent. You need an agent to be aggressive and being able to help you look at maybe outside of your scope, that knows the area, that knows what you're looking for. And sure enough, that agent ended up finding that buyer a house 20 miles from where they walked into the open house. Right. And so, they are a waste of time, but it's really amazing though, how many people are coming in without agents and walk out and they don't talk to the agent that's having the open house. They don't give their information, and the agent never even has one note on them. He doesn't even talk to them. And at that point, you lost a lead. You lost a hot lead. So,
Yeah. It's
I think
go ahead, Zach.
one of I think one of the biggest parts of this is honestly, if you're doing an open house and everybody who's coming through is represented, what I should tell people is just that you're doing your marketing wrong, right? Like
right.
there are specific ways that you can definitely maximize the number of direct consumer options. Open House Direct, obviously, it's great because it's a direct to consumer app as well. So consumers have the ability to find open houses and come and show up unrepresented. But even outside of Open Houses Direct, right? Like if all you're doing is putting your open house into the MLS, well, who are the majority of people that are going to see it, right? It's going to be the agents. It's going to be the people working with agents, right? So you have to have the strategies that have a decent chance of finding consumers. Putting out enough signs, maybe listing on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or some of these other places where people are more directly looking on their own, unrepresented. Now, again, I know we talked about we have a very very cool tactic that we don't have time to talk about here today. But yeah, our the strategy that we employ actually kind of turns things on its head and gets it so that even sites like Zillow, if you do it right, will actually send you up unrepresented people for free. So it's a really cool tactic. We can't get into it here, but yeah, I definitely recommend hey, whether it's whether it's for things like that, whether it's for going more in depth on how you properly promote an open house and have some good direct to consumer opportunities. That's really what we dive in and get into deep in our coaching with Open House Master. So I definitely recommend, hey, if you're having the experience of just having way too many people show up who are just all represented, then that's a signal that your marketing is probably the issue. And that's something that you can get past. That's something that you can learn to fix for sure.
Right. And Zach, I want to touch on that because it's not buyers that already have agents. Okay. They're coming in with an agent, but they didn't have an agent until they saw your open house online. Okay. And that's the problem. If you're marketing it the wrong way, these other companies, all these giant real estate platforms are going to market your open house so hard. I get 20 emails because I set myself up on all these search from Redfin saying open houses that fit your criteria this weekend. I'm like, oh, great. Open houses that fit my criteria. I click on the link, open houses are gone. I'm like, where'd they go? I can't find them anymore, but I'll tell you what I can find: contact agent, contact agent, contact agent. So now,
Right.
yes, all your open house marketing, all those people coming in met your agent outside and shook their hand for the first time, or talked to them on the phone. I've seen people that are handing their card to people in the driveway at my open house because that they got my open house lead online and they took it and they're walking them into my open house. And that's what it's okay if a buyer already has an agent that they've been working with for 5 months, right? That's fine. Those aren't the people that are coming into your open house. It's the ones that inquired about your open house that didn't get you because you marketed it the wrong way and got hijacked, right? They got hijacked, but now the agent's going to escort them into the open house because that buyer asked about the open house. Oh, I'll meet you at the front door. Great. I'm just the open house agent. Let me just open that door for you because I got nothing else to do today. That's what happens. And that's why you have people coming in
Right.
that don't have agents, right? Or I mean, that have agents if you market it the wrong way. So,
Right.
So
we can.
So James,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, I want to make sure that we're you know, wrapping this show on a good positive note, right? Like, so there's lots of myths, there's lots of problems that people could be running into. I know a lot of agents have had that, you know, have honestly, they've had really bad experiences with open houses, right? They've had bad experiences, and I guess really what we want to put out there and we want to remind people of and let them know is that when you do open houses correctly, they can be the best source of the best business that you will ever find. You can get great quality clients who are hot, ready to go, ready to do big deals, ready to work with you on both the seller, the buyer side, all of it, right? And do it for cheap, which is you know, unlike most of the other marketing methods available. So you know, where, you know, what sort of is the next step for people who maybe want to get help, want to make sure that they're not falling prey to these myths, but they have the, you know, a real workable strategy for how to do open houses properly?
Yeah, I want to direct anyone who's looking for those answers to our openhouseworkshop.com to go ahead and get signed up for the workshop tomorrow. And then we'll, as a result of that, get you plugged in everywhere that you need to get plugged in to get all of that information. But that's really where I think it makes the most sense for you to start. And our next workshop is actually going to be tomorrow, so you can get on live with us and you know, come on and let us like walk you through the step by step of the velvet rope effect and how you can deploy that today, tomorrow, this weekend in your next open house. And I'm also really excited about the other future you know, trainings that we're going to be doing that we were talking about today, like how to get Zillow to send unrepresented buyers to your open house. So stay tuned for that one, which is going to be a fire training because we're teaching that on our one-on-one students right now and just having such amazing results. We can't wait to package that up for you and get the training out. So anything you want to add to that, Shannon or Zach?
go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just in case people didn't realize this or wasn't clear enough, the workshop, the Red Velvet Workshop tomorrow, is currently going to be free. It's possible that we won't continue to do that for free because of how powerful it is. But if you show up tomorrow, definitely right now, you can register, get access, come on, and learn the Red Velvet Rope strategy completely for free and start employing that in your open houses. So I think the you know, the strategy that we're talking about how to get Zillow to send you unrepresented clients, that strategy, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that workshop for free. But stay tuned either way. But the Red Velvet Rope strategy that we're going to be talking about tomorrow on tomorrow's workshop, that workshop is completely free.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes.
So excited.
Excited about that one. And so that is what you want to do. If you have more questions, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you get future notifications whenever we do these live shows, and also hit the like button so that, you know, we get this message out. And please share this message if you have agents that you think would benefit from this message. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.